So today, I'm really excited to talk to you about Funny Boy by Canadian Sri Lankan writer Shyam Selvadurai. It's a book that I first came across at university, and which was a really long time ago, but it was such a joy to revisit. It really was every bit as good as I remembered, if not better, and the members of Emily's Walking Book Club all loved it and were so glad to discover this book that I feel really should have a wider audience. It has also, by the way, been turned into a great film on Netflix. So yeah, definitely worth checking that out as well. It really gives you a feeling of the colour and grandeur of Sri Lanka. Really amazing to see it all. So, Funny Boy is about a funny boy. Well, a boy who is funny in the sense that he's not quite normal. It's he from a very young age, rather than playing with the other boys, he likes playing with the girls. He likes playing this game called Bride, where he dresses up as a bride in a sort of amazing sari and has an elaborate wedding. And the grown-ups are always saying he's going to turn out funny unless something is done. So it is a gay coming-of-age novel. What makes it particularly powerful, I think, is the way that the author has bound together this very personal coming-of-age story with the political situation in Sri Lanka. Arji, who's the protagonist, is Tamil, and it's very much about the Sri Lankan Civil War. So we see this right from the start, and this idea that Arji doesn't quite fit in. He's kind of in between. So he's a boy who likes playing with the girls. He's a Tamil, but he speaks Sinhalese, not Tamil. He's a child, but he somehow gets this access, I think, because he doesn't quite fit in anywhere. He somehow becomes this sidekick to various adults, and so he is a child who sneaks into the adult world, as it were. And we get this glimpse from the beginning of the book that he will end up in Canada. So he's Sri Lankan going to Canada. So he's kind of in a place of change all the time. He's unstable, he's in between. And we had a great discussion on the Walking Book Club about what it meant to be an in-betweener and how this feeling that, and the situation that is so specific to Arji is also something that is so universal, and how that is in many ways what makes a great novel. A very specific situation of a boy who doesn't fit in with the other boys and likes playing with the girls, a Tamil who's a minority in Sri Lanka, but even among Tamils he doesn't quite fit in because he speaks Sinhalese. These really specific things making him in between, not quite fitting in, and how that is a feeling that we can all relate to. So Arji becomes a sidekick to, first of all, to Rad, her auntie, who he kind of witnesses and helps have this love affair with a Sinhalese. Then he becomes a kind of accomplice to his mother. She has an affair. And then he develops this friendship with this an older boy, a young man really, called Jagan, who was a Tamil tiger, and he's come to work for Arji's father. And Jagan kind of takes Arji under his wing. So we feel, as the reader, we're so aligned with Arji, we kind of feel very affectionate to Jagan as well. And I'm just going to read a bit out to you that that really struck me as a particularly powerful moment. So there's this moment when Jagan kind of clashes with Arji's father. The father owns this kind of luxury hotel, and they're very wealthy, even though they are Tamil. And as political tensions begin to rise and change, it becomes harder and harder to be a Tamil, let alone a successful Tamil, in Sri Lankan society at the time. So he's just, Jagan's just come in to the father and said, look, it's not fair, they're saying I can't tell them what to do, I have to tell someone else, a Sinhalese person, to tell them what to do. Okay, so he says, this is on page 173, by the way. Look, son, my father said, I didn't think there would be a need to explain this to you. But the truth is, I've given you a high position and there's bound to be some resentment, in part because you're Tamil. You gave me the position because I was good, uncle, not because I was Tamil. They don't see it that way. You know how we Tamils are always accused of favouring each other. Yes, in the Sinhalese they never do that, but we are a minority and that's a fact of life, my father said placatingly. As a Tamil, you have to learn how to play the game. Play it right and you can do very well for yourself. The trick is not to make yourself conspicuous. Go around quietly, make your money and don't step on anyone's toes. Jagan sighed impatiently. Look at me, my father said. I've done well for myself, haven't I? I'm happy, aren't I? Jagan didn't answer. My father leaned forward and patted him indulgently on the knee. It's good to have ideals, but now you're a man, son. Soon you will become a husband and a father, and you must think about what that means. You have a bright future ahead of you. Don't spoil it. So it's a real clash between kind of youthful idealism and a more adult, cynical, practical approach. And I think in showing us this kind of clash, the author is really making us think, you know, what would we do in that situation? Would we kind of go along with the father and tiptoe around, not stepping on anyone's toes, just trying to get on with things? Or would we stand up for ideals, you know, who devil may care what may happen, but we've stood up for what we believe in. And I don't think it's an easy question, and I think how we would respond to that would maybe, and this was really pointed out in the book club, what we would do would probably depend on the changing political situation. So what we see is that Arjie's father is fine doing this kind of practical approach until the situation changes so much that even he can't cope with it, even he can't tiptoe around. And, you know, in the end they do have to emigrate to Canada. So Arjie is kind of witnessing this clash here and in other situations, the kind of practical adult way of going about things versus the idealistic, youthful way. And he then takes all this knowledge that he's got from his position of being in between and applies it to his own situation, which when he first really falls in love with a boy called Shehan, and he's also sent to this horrible school, and without wanting to kind of give too much away, it boils down to Arjie having to recite some poems at a prize-giving ceremony. And, you know, he could either just stand up and recite them and toe the line, and we actually learn that this would be politically a very sensible thing to do. The headmaster of the school is absolutely horrible, but he is pleading for a kind of more inclusive school. And Arjie, as a Tamil boy, being asked to recite these poems at the ceremony is a really political act. But he's absolutely horrible. And so Arjie actually ends up doing something quite anarchic and clever. And I think it really shows that he is incredibly brave. None of us, we realise, would have been quite as brave as Arjie. None of us would have done what he did. But he decides to put the personal ahead of the political in this instance. So yeah, a really fascinating book, really well done, a real page turner. We all learned so much about the Sri Lankan situation and really connected to the book. 10 out of 10, I would say. So here are a few clips from the walk on Hampstead Heath. Here we are all eating jackfruit, which is Sri Lanka's national fruit, which I brought it along. Here we are, fueled by the jackfruit, walking through the long summer grass on the heath. And finally, here I am reading on the top of Parliament Hill. Hope you enjoyed the video.